Listen up. There's no more excuses. We're empowering those who want the hustle by exposing the status quo.
The days of ordinary are over.
It's time to crush mediocrity and start discovering your greatest potential.
Welcome to the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation.
Welcome back to another episode of the Hustle Nation podcast. Today, as always, we have a real treat. Miss Julie Hruska is in the house. Julie is a high-performance executive coach and workshop facilitator. She helps businesses and individuals unlock their executive edge and elevate their company's performance with expertise in high-performance coaching and workshops and off-site experiences. Julie, welcome to the show.
Chris, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and I can't wait to dive in today.
My pleasure. I'm excited to have you. You and I have been connected on LinkedIn for a long, long time. You have a massive following and all of your positivity and your energy ends up in my news feed. And so when we look to bring guests on the show, we're always looking for that positive, upbeat message. And similarly, I mean, we want coaches and consultants who do similar stuff to what we do because we know our audience is always looking for that edge when it comes to achievement, performance, efficiency. And so I just love consuming your content, and I would imagine everyone else does too. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of the show, my first question I love to ask is, tell me about your journey and how you got to where you are now.
And my journey is such a unique one, Chris. I grew up in Iowa in a very conservative Christian family where it was kind of expected that I would grow up, get married, have kids, quit working, raise my kids. That was like my life trajectory, right? And so I didn't quite take that path, but I did at first. So I grew up in Iowa, went to University of Iowa, where at one point I wanted to be an author, which I do get to do now on LinkedIn and write. But I went there. I wanted to be an author. I considered law school because I thought it'd be amazing to have an impact in that way and put criminals away and protect the vulnerable in the world. But it was very much frowned upon because I was meant to be a mom. And so I needed a mom job. So I studied education, met my former husband at 18, got engaged at 19, married at 20. Then I had my kids. I quit my job like I was kind of trained to do and started raising my kids. And that path is wonderful for so many people. I don't want to diminish that, but it wasn't what I was created to do. And so in an interesting twist of fate, my oldest son, Ethan, was born and had some learning issues, one of which was dyslexia. And he needed to go to a special school that was quite expensive to learn how to read. So I went back to school to get my master's because the best way to pay for that school for my family at the time was for me to go work there and get a big discount. And so in that, I'd been out of the workforce for a decade. So I said, I need to go back, get my master's. And during my master's program, I went out to a brain-based gender differences training. That's a mouthful. In Colorado Springs, Colorado, to learn about how the male brain and the female brain are different and to optimize their learning. And so it happened out there for the first time in over a decade. I was no longer my former husband's wife or Ethan, Sydney, and Aaron's mom. I was Julie again, and I had an identity, and people cared about what I had to say. And it was like getting hit by an asteroid. Like the wool was pulled off my eyes, and I just woke up and realized I'd been sleepwalking through my life, going through the motions of a life that my parents wanted for me, but not the life I was created to live. And so that started my journey of recreating my life, which led me a lot of places through power yoga, where I thought I was going to change the world and help people change their lives with yoga. And then I realized that was just a tool for transformation. And I really wanted to get to the deeper issues. And that's how I ended up in a roundabout way getting into coaching so I could help people create lives they love, empower them to be their best, and thrive in all areas of their life.
I'm curious, there's a lot that goes from that life transformation to coaching. So, what led you to want to get into coaching?
I think my whole life I was in the role of an educator, a teacher, a guide, from my job in elementary education to parenting to yoga instruction. I always knew that my purpose was to help people. But when I went through my struggles of waking up and realizing I wasn't on the right path and I needed to recreate my life, there were a lot of things that I discovered kind of the hard way because I didn't have a guide. I didn't have someone to help me through. And on my journey, as I was discovering different things, when I got into the realm of clarity and courage and productivity, all of these things through an online training I did with the High Performance Institute, it was like another like aha moment. This is what everyone needs. Every single person needs clarity. Every single person needs courage. Every single person needs training and productivity to optimize their work time so they can have more time for their family and their relationships and their health. So when I was discovering and kind of finding my way, when I came across all of these tools, I thought, I need to share this with the world. It's not the yoga that I so loved. That was one tool for transformation, but I wanted to share more. And so that's how I got into it.
I love that. One of the things that stood out to me when you mentioned that was clarity. And I think so often when people get trapped or they get stuck, they don't have clarity. And I'm curious if you could elaborate that on that because so often as well, I think in business as well as in life, a lot of people lack vision. And I'm curious if you think those are the same thing or not.
Yes and no. Two things. I think clarity overarching leads to vision. You have to have a clarity of vision, but clarity also plays into clarity of self, clarity of service, clarity of skill set. So there are a lot of forms of clarity, but the one that's paramount is definitely clarity of vision of the life that you desire. And what happens, like you mentioned, is you get kind of stuck in the monotony of life. You get stuck on like a hamster on a wheel going through the motions. And
Yeah.
so what I say is that's like you're drifting, you're kind of floating or you're spinning, and you have to disrupt that drift. There's usually a catalyst. Like for me, it was my awakening experience in Colorado when I realized that I'd been sleepwalking through my life. For some people, it's a divorce, cancer, job loss. Usually there's some catalyst that wakes people up. But one of my goals is to help people wake up before something tragic happens, to wake up
Amen.
now and realize like this is your life and you get to create it by design. So you have the power to do anything you want to do. What is it you want to do? And that's where clarity comes in. You have to step away from the world, from all the noise, from the current obligations and things that hinder you or you feel like are holding you back, and just take time to silence that noise and get really clear on the vision. What is it that you want to do with your life? What do you like? Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up in the world? What do you want to create in the world? And then beyond that, who do you want to be with and where do you want to be? Like, who do you want to surround yourself with? And where do you ultimately want to end up? Which is something we talked about before
Hmm.
we hopped on camera. Like, when my youngest son graduates, I need to be at the beach. Right now it's snowing
Yeah.
outside. So it's having that vision as your North Star that you keep working toward every single day. And you wake up, you're excited, you're energized, you're ready to go.
Julie, you're speaking my language here. I love everything you just said. How many people out there do you think don't even know that they don't have clarity or clarity of vision?
I think I would say, I mean, I haven't done this particular research, but I've read a lot of research studies about success and how many people achieve their goals, and it's about 8%. And so if you think about that overall, 8%, that's 92% of people that aren't achieving their goals. And why is that? A lot of times people aren't clear on what they really want. You go to college, you get a job, and the old American dream was you go to college, maybe you have a family, you work, you retire, and then you enjoy the golden years. But that's not really reality anymore. The
No.
reality is that a lot of people go to college, they don't end up in that field at all. They kind of find their way, they take a job to pay the bills, and they work their job, and then yeah, they retire and that's it. But there's so much more available to us, and anything is possible, but you have to have that vision.
Yeah, I come from a marketing background, and so often when I'm working with clients, I'll ask them, what is it that you want to achieve this year? And the look on their face is like this, if you can't see me, for those listening, I'm like looking up at the ceiling or at the wall, and they're guessing because they don't know, which is always a shock to me. But where I'm going with this is so
Right.
often, whether you're talking to a leader or a salesperson, a business owner, or we're just talking about the business itself, I think when one has a strategy, they have better clarity and, of course, better vision. But do you think it's a reasonable path for an individual out there who says, I'm just not where I want to be at the age 40 or 50 or whatever it might be? Is it important, do you think, to have a personal plan, a personal strategy? I mean, I don't think you have to look out 5 or 10 years, but should one have a personal strategy?
Absolutely. I mean, the great news about change is that on an individual level, every day is an opportunity to create change. So if you're listening
Yes.
to this and you're 47, 55, 36, whatever your age, if you take time to look at your life and do what I call a life inventory and see what's working and what's
Yeah.
not working, you have the power to change it. And sometimes we get stuck in the, oh, I don't have enough money, right? All these limiting beliefs show up. Oh, I don't have the right training. Oh, I don't know what I want. But the great news is that there are guides to lead you, to help you, to support you in that journey. And before we talked about individuals, you mentioned companies and how important that is to have a vision. The most successful companies all have a very clear vision. And it's not just on the leadership front, it's everyone. The high performing cultures that I work with, everyone is on board with that vision. It's created, there's buy in, and everybody knows that when they wake up and they go to work, whether it's working from home or in the office, that they're working toward a mutually beneficial, exciting, purposeful goal. And so, whether it's personal or professional, you have to have that vision to make it happen.
I love that. So, if one has a strategy or a business has a plan, what do you find is the number one reason that things don't happen? So, for example, why is it so often that there's a lack of execution, or as I call it, implementation?
People fail in the follow through all the time, and there are a lot of reasons. I find a lot of it has to comes back to limiting beliefs or lack of buy-in. So if it's a company's vision and people are not showing up engaged and energized to work towards that company's vision, it's usually because they don't believe in it, or they don't have that connection with the company, the buy-in. And the buy-in happens when people are involved and collaborative in creating the vision, because people support what they create. On a personal front, when it comes to why don't they achieve their goals, it's almost always a limiting belief. a belief I'm not enough, I don't have what it takes, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the confidence. I mean, I get excuses all the time. And the time one is something that people typically use. I don't have time to change my life because
Mm.
I'm a parent, I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor, I do 3 clubs, I have this and that, and it's an excuse. The reality is, if you are clear on the life you want, then you prioritize effectively. You're more productive, you're efficient and effective, and you're committed to excellence. So you make it happen. But if you don't have that buy in, if you're not really committed, it's just a dream, it's just a hope, and then it's not going to happen.
And we all know hoping and praying is not a strategy, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You have to have deadlines. And that's what people don't understand. It's like pull out your calendar and I'll show you where your priorities are.
I love that comment. Love, love, love. I think a lot of it, you mentioned mindset and you talked about limiting beliefs. I'm a huge proponent of mindset. However, changing your mindset doesn't necessarily mean you start achieving your goals. I think it's just one ingredient in the recipe for success. But I'm really curious. You also talked about excuses. So, how do you say, let's put those excuses to the side and let's change those limiting beliefs, because that may be in my eyes maybe the first hurdle to jump over. How do we get someone to start believing that these things are possible?
You're absolutely right. The mindset is just one part of it. But if you master your mindset and you don't take consistent strategic action, you'll never achieve your goals. So you're
Yeah.
absolutely right on that. With mindset, it is the foundation. If you don't believe, you can't achieve. So you have to, first of all, identify the limiting beliefs. What is it that holds you back? And a lot of people don't know. So I like to do an exercise with people where you identify what I call a command statement, which is do something hard. And right before you want to quit, you will hear something inside. And I will bleep myself. Some people are like, F this, I don't need it, right? Some people are like, I can't do it. So, whatever that statement is that comes to you right when you want to quit, that's the first place to start with your limiting belief. That's one limiting belief that probably consistently in life you use and it holds you back. So, for example, like the F this, I don't need this. It happens at work. Your boss comes in, tells you to do something you don't agree. In your head, you're like, F this, I don't need it. You are with your husband or wife or life partner, and you get in an argument. And in your head, you're like, F this, I don't need it. Right? You're working out and it's really hard. And you get to that point where you just don't think you can go anymore. Limiting belief, F this, I don't need it. There it is again and again and again. So it's there. And all you need to do is pay attention. Once you identify it, then you can get in and annihilate it. You can reverse it. You can reframe it and adopt a more affirming belief.
That's awesome. That is so true. I want to go back to the excuses slash priorities, and that resonated with me a lot. I think so often people will say, this is really important to me. And it could be for someone who's a coach like you and I to go out and elevate our personal brand by posting more on social media or
Mhm.
creating videos. And someone will say, I really need to do this, but I don't have time.
Right.
And my response is always, well, if it's a priority, you will make time. And the classic story that I tell a lot of people is for years, I've been trying to play more golf. It's just something I enjoy. It
Yeah.
fills my cup. I enjoy hanging out and spending time with friends and being outside. And one of them had asked me, and this is a younger gentleman my age who has a lot of flexibility with his job. So he's
Yeah.
always available to play golf, and a couple of them are. And so I just said, sadly, no. I tried, but it's not working. And I come to the realization that Yeah, it is a priority for me. But if I really want to do it, I have to make time, which
Mhm.
means sacrificing something else. That could be maybe I'm sacrificing my day, which obviously time is money, or maybe I'm sacrificing picking up my kids or doing something else that's important. But what is the top priorities in your life? Because if you say it's important, you will make time for it. How do you go about that with your clients?
Well, I will, I have a lot of thoughts on that, but
Good.
something you were saying, I was like, well, Chris, is that a limiting belief that you have to sacrifice? And here's the common belief in the world. People talk about work-life balance. I want everyone to throw that out because work is part of life. It's not
Yes.
life's over here and work's over here. Work is part of it, and it's about creating equanimity and creating flow. The old version of balance creates a scale, right? You have to take from here to balance it out and give to here. So that creates that sacrifice mentality, right? But what if we get rid of that and we look at the four main pillars of your life: career, relationships, health, finances? And then you break that down. What are my priorities? Right? So in my health realm, maybe golf is there. It's a form of exercise. So that's a priority. That needs to be scheduled, just like picking up your kids from school, just like your work hours, whatever they may be. And you have to block it out. And I have my clients
Yes.
block out absolutely everything. So it starts with if you work out in the morning, that's on your schedule. And then you have your work blocks. Then you maybe have a lunch block. Then if you're going to pick up your kids in the middle of your workday, that's scheduled, right? And when you look at it all, you can move it around and you can fit it all in. Because what I find and what research shows is that block scheduling can increase your effectiveness and efficiency by 30%. So
Oh
if
yeah.
you increase your work time and your productivity there by 30%, guess what? 30% more time to go golfing, to take your
Yeah.
partner on a date, to spend with your kids, to go work out, whatever it is that you want to do. So I believe you don't have to sacrifice, but what you do have to do is create a very structured high performance schedule.
I love that. When I talk about sacrificing, I'm typically referring to things like Netflix, sitting on your butt, doing things that are adding nothing. And I
Yeah.
will say this though too, as much as I'm a busybody, I love to be doing stuff even on the weekends. Everybody does still need some time to be lazy, some time to sit on the couch and unwind. I think that's good for both physically and mentally to recharge the batteries. But I want to go back. You had mentioned the word equanimity, and
Mhm.
it's not something that I hear anybody talk about these days, which, if I have it correct, equanimity is mental calmness and composure. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? I really want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So, in addition, I kind of glazed over my time in the yoga world, but I
Hmm.
spent about a decade studying yoga, mindfulness, and meditation and teaching that. And what I've done in my career is I've brought that together with high performance. So, it's the yin and the yang energy, which creates that peace, that full circle, the holistic approach. So, what I see as equanimity, I've kind of expanded and created my own definition beyond peace and flow, is a life that very much is whole. And so, to have equanimity, you have this flow between your areas of your life. They're kind of seamless. You have your family life, you have your leisure and free time, you have your work, you have it all, and you create a plan that very much is harmonious. And that's where the positive form of the word balance comes in. It's very harmonious. It all flows together. And you're right on downtime. You absolutely need downtime. Some people, though, will go and meditate, take a walk in nature, use their downtime well. Other people might sit on the couch and watch Netflix for 72 hours other than when they're sleeping. And that maybe is not the best use of your downtime. So
No.
there's an opportunity in the high performance lifestyle to use your downtime strategically for rest, renewal, and rejuvenation instead of mindless scrolling, searching, watching. And you're right, absolutely. Watch a movie, watch a few episodes of your show. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we should really look at our life holistically and say, even when we're not scheduled, right? Like weekends, I'm not going to make you schedule 24 hours on your weekend, but how are you using that time in a way that is really moving you toward the life that you desire?
That is a really good thing for you to check on if you're listening to this episode is the flow state. I'm fascinated by it. When I wrote my first book, I talked about the flow state more from the realm of sports, and high
Mhm.
performers in any professional sport get into a flow state when they're playing their best. And it's almost like they're so calm and so even
Yes.
that they're in this state of flow, right? They're unconscious to a certain degree. And sometimes I mean, when you talk about that, I can't help but assimilate the 2 together. Do you
Mhm.
think there's connection there?
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of connections between successful people in sports and successful people in the rest of their lives, especially in the professional sense, because getting in a flow state is so important. You meet those people that nothing phases them, right? They're in their zone. When I'm working, I'm in my zone. When I'm with my kids, I'm in my zone, right? Like that's a practice of mindfulness, actually. And sometimes we think mindfulness is like meditating and sitting around walking through flowers, but it's not. Mindfulness is being fully present. So if you're fully present in the experience, whether it's sports or your project at work or with your partner, you're right here, you're locked in. And when you do that, it makes you more effective in everything you do. It helps you enjoy life and you have more time again to flow, right? If you're locked in, you're going to be much more productive in whatever you're doing, whether it's resting and renewing and you're just all in there, or whether you're about to score a touchdown,
Mhm.
right? Because it's football. Football is my favorite sport. Um, any of those things, it's that flow state is so important.
I love that. So now that you mention that productivity and efficiency just being present, really, I've found for me to become higher performing, and I wouldn't exactly call myself high performing all the time,
Yeah.
but some of the ways I get there are by turning off my phone, or leaving my phone intentionally in the kitchen, or a lot of times I find when I have multiple tabs open in Gmail or whatever it is, I get distracted by every little ping and notification,
Mhm.
and so I may just have one tab open. I may be try to lock into this one project, this one window at a time, and sometimes for me, it's having some background music on. And how do you help those individuals become more present, but also become more efficient? Because I think efficiency is such a big thing. To become a higher performer, you have to be efficient with your time and you have to be present.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll meet people and they're like, "I work 12-hour days." I'm like, "Great,
Hmm.
let me look at your schedule." And they don't have anything planned.
Yeah,
They know what they have to do. They might have a to-do list, but they waste so much time. And the
ton.
research on high performance shows, again, back to the block scheduling, you lock in. That means your phone's on do not disturb, your ringer is off, you've closed your tabs, there are no notifications, and you focus solely on one task, on one project for 50 minutes. And then at 50 minutes, you get up, you stretch, you get a drink of water, you close your eyes, which is something very few people talk about. But eye strain is the number one way that you lose energy.
Hmm.
And if you think about
I did not
all of
know
our
that.
screen time, right? and how you get those, like toward the end of the day, some of us get dry eyes or, irritated eyes. That's why we're losing so much energy, that visual stimulation. So after a 50-minute work block, you get up, you stretch because you want to get your blood flowing. You take some deep breaths to like bring your energy back to a nice, stable place. You close your eyes, get a drink of water, take a walk, but then boom, 10 minutes max for that break. You sit back down, or if you stand at your desk, you get back to work. It's another block of time. So, what the High Performance Institute has learned is that when you have that block scheduling, you typically are going to work 4 or 5, max 6-hour work days, not 8 hours, not 12 hours. And you can get that much more done because you're so focused versus the typical person working on a project. Oh, my phone. Somebody texted me. Oh, who texted me? Oh, let me text them back. Okay. Oh my gosh, I have 20 emails. I need to do that. Like, no, we are
And then
the
you
most.
forgot what you were doing.
Yes, we are the most distracted society ever. And it's why people are not as efficient and effective as they can be, and why people say they don't have time. Because, yeah, if you're going to do that all day, it's going to be crazy. And you're going to get to the end of the day. You're not going to feel good. You're not going to feel accomplished. And you're going to have 10 tasks that you didn't get done because you were so distracted, you forgot what you needed to do.
Yes, so true. So true in so many ways. Julie, before we got on and started recording, you and I had a really interesting conversation about hustle and kind of tying that into high performance. And unfortunately, today, with a couple different segments in the world, there are some folks that find the word hustle very off-putting. And there are some people that are even a part of this anti-hustle culture.
Yes.
I mentioned to you that our definition of hustle is very different. I don't think it means that you have to work 70 hours a week, which probably is not very productive, anyways. I don't think it means that you need to give up sleep or sacrifice how you eat or how you sacrifice taking care of yourself. But what do you think about the word hustle and kind of transforming that word back to a positive state?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. When I first saw the name of your podcast, I'm like, oh, Hustle Nation, this will be interesting, right? Like, what is their thought around hustle? And so, as I was preparing to be on the show, I started to think about, well, how would I define it? And is there a right way or a wrong way to hustle? And I see hustle very much as focusing, being all in on whatever you're doing. So, there is a right way to hustle. It's with clarity, priorities, productivity, and a commitment to excellence. It's clarity, like, what am I doing right now? What do I need to focus on right now? That then goes to the priorities. What are the priorities of my day? And then focusing on the productivity, using that block scheduling, blocking out distractions, turning your phone off, right? And then committing to excellence. Like, I'm going to commit to getting these things accomplished today before I leave work or before I go to sleep tonight. I'm going to make sure I accomplish these things at work and these things with my family and these things with my health and finances.
What I hear you say is you're making priorities and you are holding yourself accountable to getting those priorities done and achieved every single day.
Absolutely. When you create them and you schedule them, they're going to happen unless you're not disciplined. And that's the word that we don't
Discipline.
talk a lot about, right? It's discipline. It's holding yourself accountable or having someone else hold you accountable to doing what you say you're going to do. For example, you talked about your kids and picking them up from school. If you say you're going to pick your kids up from school and you don't, what happens?
Could get in a lot of trouble, both with my wife and with the school, right?
Exactly. And your kids feel abandoned. There's all of
Yes.
these consequences, right? Well,
Yes.
that's how it is in all areas of our life. If we don't get to the workout, we're going to have health consequences. If we don't finish our priorities at work, we're going to have work consequences. So, being disciplined so we can have the positive feedback and the positive consequences instead of the negative ones is so rewarding. So when we start to look at this life, creating a life that we desire, it is about locking in on what you really want, starting with that vision. And then from that vision, pulling back and looking at, okay, how do I make that vision a reality? I'm here right now. I want to get there. I need a strategic plan to bridge the gap from where I am now to where I want to be. Once you have that vision and that plan, then every day your priorities need to be leading you toward that plan. So if you want a promotion at work, your work priorities, in addition to doing your job with the utmost excellence, is to invest in your skill set or mentoring or something additionally to make sure you're working toward your promotion.
Yeah.
If you have like health goals, right, then there needs to be something on your schedule 3, 4, 5 times a week that is helping you work toward those goals. If you want to prioritize 2 hours a night after dinner to be with your family, then you have to be disciplined enough that when you get an email or when you get a text or phone call and you're in that 2-hour block with your family, that you don't answer it, that you are all in, fully present, because you know what? It's going to wait.
I think being fully present can pay a lot of dividends if you really hold true to that, and it's so valuable in so many ways. But Julie, we've got to wrap the show up. So before I let you go, I do want to ask you, out of all the amazing things you've said, I mean, there's so many golden nuggets in this episode. What would be some final thoughts you'd want to leave with listeners that maybe you haven't touched on already?
I think that overall, I want people to walk away from this episode knowing that anything is possible if you're willing to do the work. If you're willing to create the vision and work to make it your reality, it's possible. But it takes clarity, it takes prioritization, productivity, discipline, and commitment to excellence. If you're willing to do that work, to create this schedule that will move you from where you are to where you want to be, then you're going to achieve your vision. And chances are you're going to achieve it a lot faster than you ever realized you could.
Couldn't agree more. That was fantastic. Julie, before I let you go, tell everyone a little bit more about your business and where they can find you if they'd like to connect.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Julie Hruska is my name. If you're listening, it's Hruska. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me there. I also have a website called powerfulleaders.com. You can find me there as well. I do 2 things. I work with individuals and I work with companies' executive teams. So I do a lot of one-on-one coaching to help people create all of the things that we talked about today. But ultimately, whether it's in their career or the other areas of their lives, I help people get from where they are to where they want to be. And I'm so passionate about it. I love it. I do the exact same thing with companies. I help companies get clear on their vision, their mission, the steps and strategies it's going to take to achieve that vision. And we work to create a high-performing culture where employees are engaged, their work is optimized, and everybody is thriving. So those are the 2 areas that I focus on. I do that with one-on-one coaching, off-site trainings, and corporate group workshops.
You heard it, folks. If you're out there and you're listening and you're thinking about it, check out Julie. If nothing else, follow her on LinkedIn. I think she's a breath of fresh air. So much great content that's upbeat and inspiring and just down straight valuable. But also as someone who contributes to Forbes, I think there's so much merit to what you talk about. And there are a lot of people that are listening. A lot of people are following. Check her out. For everybody listening, thank you so much for your ears today. We appreciate you. Until next time, peace.
Thank you for being part of the Hustle Nation. If you're serious about raising the bar in your personal and professional life and willing to go all in on your success, head over to hustleleaders.com. Here you can get access to our Hustle Productivity ebook, attend our Hustle Masterclass, or challenge yourself to the 30-Day Hustle Challenge. Pairing these tools and training with the Hustle Nation podcast will help you advance to a whole new level. Until next time, stay hungry and inspire those around you to hustle.